Good morning, good afternoon, good day for everyone joining. We're going to be getting started here in a couple more minutes. I'm going to give a few more people, hopefully, will be joining us. To kind of keep the background noise as everybody comes in, I'm going to kind of mute you all. You do have permission to unmute yourself as well. Well, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock. I'd like to welcome you to the Coffee and Careers in Animal Science. Zoom has a chat feature, so if you have any questions for the speakers throughout this program, please enter them in the chat feature, and Trish will evaluate those and then select a question, and you guys can answer them and have discussion. My name is Dr. Casey Bradley, and I am, I guess, the creator of Coffee and Careers in Animal Science, and just kind of wanted to introduce you to the program of where it started and where we are today. I ran a pilot program this summer and with a very small group of graduate students, and most of them are on today. So it's really excited that they've come back for a second season. And really what I'm trying to do is mentor and reach back out to fellow animal science students. I didn't have a lot of networking opportunities in my career, so I'm trying to change that and bring the industry jobs to light for everyone here and kind of talk about our careers and how to work through them and just bring you more information, give you opportunity to connect with other graduate students throughout the world, professionals throughout the world that can help you, guide you in your career process. Through the pilot program, I was really excited to see a lot of professionals and some professors really wanting to participate in the program because they add a lot to the discussions from the different speakers, and we kind of make it open access to where everybody can give their advice and have really good discussions. And so I was really excited when Continental Search and Dan Simmons reached out to me to help me partner with me for future seasons of this. So as it grows, it gets more difficult to manage things on your own. And so I really love the partnership that I have created with Continental Search. And before I get into my career background and how things started, I'm going to turn it over to Trish with Continental Search. She's going to be our moderator today, and she's going to introduce us speakers. So, Trish.
Hi, guys. Morning, afternoon, evening. It's nice to see you all here. So a few months ago, I sat in on one of Casey's Coffee and Career segments, and I realized that there's a lot of people out there who have questions. So whether you're finishing up grad school and trying to break into the industry, or even if you work in the industry but aren't quite sure how to get ahead or move forward, or if you know what you want but you haven't quite figured out where you fit. The animal sciences is a really broad yet integrated spectrum where when it comes to finding fulfilling work and building our careers, also often there are avenues we didn't really see to, or even think to consider. So The speaker that we have for today has been recruiting in animal agriculture since 2001. He's filled hundreds of roles in various positions for feed manufacturers, feed suppliers, animal health companies, and various co-ops. So he's spoken on careers for the American Dairy Science Association. He's been a keynote speaker for the Northeast Dairy Challenge and for ARPAS as well. He's a frequent guest speaker for careers on the animal sciences at Virginia Tech, Penn State, the University of Maryland, and also in UDEL. I'm seeing you guys on my screen, and I know that some of you know him, and those who do not really should. So he's built a very successful business helping people in ag-related companies understand the talent market we have today, how it works, and also where you need to be to become successful. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me introduce you all to Dan Simmons of Continental Search.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm going to try technology and see what happens here if I share a screen. Here's the button I'm looking for. I'm sorry. This is new.
Yep, that's you. We're ready to go.
Okay. How come I'm not getting a slideshow?
Hit the little button in the background, I think. There you go.
Okay. Are you seeing slideshow?
We're seeing your preview screen, so maybe you need to share your other screen that the slides
Stop
up on.
share. Folks, we will get this. Welcome to day one. Casey, am I good?
We're great.
Okay, good morning and thank you for joining. My name is Dan Simmons and greetings from coastal Delaware. I'm going to talk about career opportunities in the animal sciences today. Many, if not most, of the people who start out in animal science do so because they think they want to be a veterinarian. They want to heal all the animals. Most don't become veterinarians. Often it's because of organic chemistry. I can see some of you rolling your eyes right now. Some people didn't like the surgeries. Some don't like the GPA you have to maintain for this. Others look at the student loan debt versus the starting salary. So with that, what they do is look at Plan B. The popular options for Plan B: live animal production, government, academia, not-for-profits, and industry. If you're looking for a Plan B, what I want you to consider are who you are. Most fresh grads don't last in their first job more than a year. It's because they got their BS or they got their MS or they got their PhD, and then the next thing they wanted was a JOB. And they didn't think about getting a career, they thought about getting a job. So I want you to think about these things. Do you prefer to deal with people, with data, with things, or with animals? These are different personality types. Some would rather work with people. Often they go into sales and marketing. Some work with data. That would be people that work with research, R&D, things. A lot of them go into manufacturing. Animals, thank God we have those people because that's where our food comes from. Look at how much you're willing to travel overnight. If you want to be home and have supper at your table every night, that's going to limit the type of work you can do. If you'd really like to be on the road, there are options for that. So we're going to look at how that's going to impact the quality of life you have, the lifestyle you have. And I want you to look at whether or not you should be in a barn, in a manufacturing or processing plant, whether you should be in an office or a lab, whether like Casey and I, you're working from a home office, whether you're in a classroom or you're writing grants. or whether you're behind a windshield and then in a conference room. I want you to think about where you want to be, how much you want to travel, what you want to deal with, and the organization you want to be with. Do you structured or versus creative? Do you want a fast-paced environment or something that's slow and steady? Do you want to be with a big organization or a small one or maybe a startup? Do you want to work for a for-profit company? Or do you want to work for something that isn't focused on profit? Another thing you have to consider is you have to live where the animals are. If you're, in most cases, you have to live where the animals are. The saddest story I had was the PhD from North Carolina who just got her degree in dairy nutrition. She was going to be a dairy nutritionist. I said, great. Where do you want to go? And she said, well, I have to stay here in North Carolina. And I said, there aren't enough cows. She didn't think it all the way through. I don't know what she's doing, but she couldn't get the job she wanted that day because she didn't have the ability to be where the animals are. Not far from, I live on the Delaware coast, not far from here is a cow calf operation, a couple of them, but there aren't enough beef cattle for somebody to make a living supporting the beef cattle industry in Delaware. So you have to live where the animals are. And your choice is going to impact your loved ones. Whether you're going to be home every night or whether you're going to travel. How you handle stress. The proximity to family, how important is that? Some people want to be in the town they grew up in, live on the family farm. That's great. I swore up and down I wouldn't live in the county that I grew up in, and for the last 40 some years I haven't. Depends upon how you want to be close to home or close to family. You want to look at whether advancement comes with relocation. You know, if you're going to climb the ladder and that's important to you, you have to choose a company or choose a career where you can do that in one location if you don't want to move. Oftentimes you'll have two professionals and they don't necessarily have congruent career paths, okay? You have to look at who's going to follow whose career. Sometimes that's done by paycheck. Sometimes that's done on who can work remotely and who can't. But you have to think about who's going to follow whose career. And whether you want the steady paycheck of a government job or an academic job, or whether you want the ability for a big win and you want to go into industry. Whatever it is, I want you to pick a job that matches your personality. And those 6 topics are a big part of it. Now, this is a blatant plug for a future session like this. In January, I've been asked to do a talk on the personality assessments and how they work and how that is used in the interview process. I'm also going to talk about picking a job that matches your personality. So if you're interested in this, check back in for a session in January. But if you've chosen to work in live production, there are limiting factors. You have to live where the animals are. Normally that's rural. And it's physical work in a lot of cases. But there are reasons to choose it. You want to work with the animals. You enjoy physical work. You'd like to work in a barn. Well, this could be you. If you want to be that, if you want to do that type of work, there are job opportunities out there. Either working for an independent producer, becoming a contract grower, work as a service rep or production manager. Most often, that's in poultry or swine. And the types of employers, well, you can work for yourself. You can work for an independent farmer, or you can work for an integrated poultry or swine company. Those are the most common. You can go to work in government. Now, there are limiting factors with this. There are roughly 60 different employers for government, and that's it. And if you want to work for the federal government, most of those opportunities are around DC. There are some sites here, hither and yon, but the bulk of them are around the DC area. If you don't want to work for the federal government, but you want to be in government, you better be where the job is, because you've got one Department of Agriculture per state. They're going to tell you where you're going to live. And you have to be able to put up with the bureaucracy because it's there. But normally stable employment, there's a path for advancement, excellent benefits with government, and you don't need to relocate. So if that's you, here are those are the options. And the types of roles you can look at, most common would be a data analyst. And thank heaven for them, because that's where we get the census of where the animals are. You can work in regulatory, and you can work in R&D. The types of employers that are out there for this: the USDA, the FDA, state departments of agriculture, state veterinarians. The military has some options for people, the animal scientists. There are some counties that will have government roles for animal scientists. And there's some large metro areas where if you're willing to work with horses, you want to work with horses or dogs, they will have things like that as well. Now you choose to work in academia. Now there are some limiting factors with academia. You have to live where the schools are. And there is no more than 3 in a state that I can think of. If there's more than that, I'm sorry, but I haven't found more than about 3 schools in a state that has an animal science department. And sometimes that counts private schools. In some cases, funding is dropping, particularly for extension agents. This past week, somebody told me they did not want to go into academia because they think the job is more about getting grant money, not research and teaching. That's not my point of view, but that came from an educated educator. And top jobs require a doctorate degree. So those are limiting factors. But people choose this because they desire to teach, they want to do research work, they like the location. So if those things work for you, and these are the types of jobs you want to be in basic or applied research and development. You want to work in extension, which can be a very gratifying career. You want to be a professor. You've got 2 types of options. You've got your state land grant universities. And if you don't like what's going on with the one that employs you, you have to relocate to go to the next one. So think that through. There are some private universities that have animal science program. Wilmington University in Ohio comes to mind. Delaware Valley College in Pennsylvania comes to mind. Berry College, I believe is Georgia, comes to mind. But these are few and far between. And if I could put them on my fingers, there's not many of them. So your choices are most commonly the state land grant universities. I want you to think about not-for-profits. There are limiting factors with not-for-profits. The compensation often lags other sectors. Location. These aren't everywhere. Sometimes there's a lack of advancement opportunities. In fact, in most of the trade associations, there's a lack of advancement opportunities. And many not-for-profits lack sufficient funding for sustainability. But you will feel as though you're making a difference, and you can make a fabulous impact. And some of these organizations have plenty of money and have a real voice. And there are different types of organizations like this. There's research organizations, there's trade associations, obviously there's the zoos and scientific associations. In just a moment, I'm going to share with you some examples of those. The opportunities you can have there would be a farm manager, a researcher, member communications, communication and marketing, member recruitment, public relations, event planning, and what I should have put there was government relations, and animal caretakers. Those are the most common job titles I found in a not-for-profit. And the types of employers, there are research farms. The 2 that I know most about are the Noble Foundation in Oklahoma and the Minor Institute in Shazy, New York. There are lots of trade associations, very fabulous trade associations, like the National NCBA, Beef Association, poultry and egg, that promote industry. Then there's the scientific societies, Poultry Science Association, American Dairy Science Association, American Society of Animal Sciences. These have full-time employees. If you want to look at a not-for-profit, check these out. If you don't know what to do in your career, this is an interesting way to start. And obviously there's the zoos. Or you can go into industry. The limiting factors. The presenter doesn't see any. Your host doesn't see any, and Casey didn't see it. Reasons to choose. You're feeding the world. There's career advancement. It's practical application of science. There are lots of employment options. Some of the jobs work from home. And the income potential is truly unlimited. If you're going to do this, the types of jobs that are most commonly out there is to be a veterinarian, work in a clinic, or have a small practice. And that can be a lucrative way to go. It's, in many cases, it is physically demanding, but it's a great place to start. Technical support, very popular. I don't want to sell the product, I want to explain the science behind the product. Or I don't want to have to be responsible for the relationship with the producer, but I want to help the producer. Then there's product development, basic R&D. I want to create the right animal health product to solve this problem with pigs. That is why I was put on earth. Well, this is the type of job for you, then product development. Then there's those who feed the animals, write the diets, animal nutritionists and the formulators. If you're looking at those roles, the nutritionists most often are going to have a doctorate degree. The formulators will have a bachelor's or a master's degree. If you're looking at formulation, I would look at a master's degree, and this is someone who likes to be in one place all the time, likes a steady paycheck, likes to understand what's going on, has a variety of things to do during the day, but at 5 o'clock is done, and they have applied their science and their knowledge to help with the diets, or to help make certain that the quality of the product going out is right. There are roles like that. Then there's sales. Ooh, sales. Ooh. No, sales is solving problems for people. That's all it is. You're solving problems for people. It's a great way to go. There's an unlimited income potential. I know salespeople out there earning $400,000 plus a year, and they feel great about solving problems for their customers. There's manufacturing operations. Whether you're working in a feed mill, whether you're working in animal processing, there are a lot of manufacturing operations for animal scientists, particularly if you're looking at food safety. Food safety is one of the fastest growing niches in animal sciences right now. In fact, we're starting to devote resources to developing that client base, where 10 years ago, we wouldn't even think about it, okay? So if you're looking at manufacturing operations, one of the fastest growing areas, food safety and quality assurance. There's also marketing and product promotion. The types of employers you're going to work with: food production companies, the Tysons, the Pilgrims, the Mount Air Farms, the feed companies, Land O'Lakes, Kent, Hubbard, Alltech, the nutrition products companies, Biomin, Adisseo, Nutrifirma, Kemin, these types of companies. The genetics companies, whether it's AI, the AI companies in dairy and beef, or you work for those in the poultry or the swine industry, there are opportunities there as well. A big part of this now is animal health and pharma. Now, animal health is the piece of it that is non-pharmaceutical, and that is a big area of growth right now. The prebiotics, the eubiotics, the probiotics, That is a big area of growth because we're not vaccinating animals like we were. So there's lots of opportunities there. So if you're looking for a career and a career growth, this is an area you can look at. And there's also genetics. These are the types of companies that will employ you in industry. These are the types of roles most commonly found for people that have a graduate degree in the animal sciences. Now, earlier today, Casey talked about the need to network. The need to network and the idea that you should communicate with people, get their ideas, build relationships. And at this point, I would normally be plugging the idea of attending conferences and trade shows. Conferences and trade shows. Well, there's this little thing called COVID, and it screwed that all up. So I'm recommending more than ever that you do this through social media. And if you want to explode your LinkedIn network, if we have not connected yet, you can explode your network by linking to me. I have 10,000 first level connections, most of them in the animal sciences. So feel free to link to me. I accept all invitations of people in the animal sciences. If you're not in North America, please send me a note that you attended Coffee and Careers, and I'd be happy to accept your invitation. We host a group called the Animal Science Monitor that connects 4,500 people. It is monitored, but it's open to members to discuss and promote whatever they'd like to promote. Now, I believe, is the scary part of the presentation, where I see if anybody has questions. And if I don't know the answer, I'll make up something clever.
Dive into questions. Okay.
And we've got like one interesting question here. So Lauren is asking about wanting to work in the food safety quality assurance field. Do you have any recommendations when it comes to experience opportunities or interns, for example, for these types of companies?
Yes, I do. Absolutely, I do. You should contact Trish, because on my staff, Trish handles anything with food safety. And frankly, I don't know much about it. But her email address is trish@continentalsearch.com. And I'll let her answer those, because she's the expert on my team. I can tell you it's a growing area. I can tell you that if I had somebody in my family that wanted to work in the animal sciences and didn't know what to do, this is the direction I would push them. But I can't answer that. But if you'll contact Trish, she can give you some better information than I can.
Hey, Dan, just real quick, I add something. I think
I can't hear whoever's speaking. Trish? Hi, I can't hear whoever's speaking.
okay.
Oh, that was Casey early. There we go.
It's me.
Hey, Dan,
And for
Yes.
I might just ask a question. I think Casey's cutting out pretty bad. One of the questions that came in was, how do you understand your job interest, right? I mean, you did a great job outlining the different careers that exist. But can you give any coaching advice to the, people when they're looking and they say there's this certain job available, right? And they don't, oftentimes as a finishing student, you don't know what that job, what that really even means. You may have some preconceived ideas, or your professor does. Any advice for them to learn how to learn more about those roles? I mean, in general, maybe before even contacting the account or the
Yeah.
prospect.
Oh, sure. Connect with them on social. First off, if you have questions about that, feel free to catch me on LinkedIn. If I know about it, I'll be happy to take 5 minutes and explain to you what I know the job is. If not, if I have connections, I'll hook you up with someone who is an expert at doing it. But the best way to do it is talk to somebody doing the job. You know, what's this really like? No matter what your religious beliefs are, every religion that I know of has one tenet, and that, well, that's in common. One particular tenet in common, it's helping others. If you ask someone for help, they've been trained, ingrained in them to help. So reach out to them on social media, find somebody who's doing that type of job, and say, look, I'm considering this kind of career. What can you tell me about it, or what should I know? Ask 3 or 4 people, you'll get 2 or 3 responses and get a good answer. If you're looking at whether it fits or not, this slide and the next slide are ones that I really want you to think about. You know, if you're looking at choosing a career, figure out whether you want to deal with people, data, things, or animals. How close you want to be to the animals. What environment you want to be in or need to be in, where you need to live, how much travel you have to have, how it's going to impact your loved ones, the organization you want to be with, and whether you need to live where the animals are. So as you're looking at choosing a career, these 6 factors I have found to be very important. But if you're trying to find out about a particular one, reach out on social media to someone, or feel free to reach out to me. If I can't answer it, I will connect you with someone who can.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I think new students just need to make sure they recognize almost anybody will take the time, right? So don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like you don't know much about them. If they're, you know, a lot of times if they're alumni of your school, that's a little easier path, but keep diving into it. I mean, that's for the best outcomes.
There's 180 some people on this call. This is not an insurmountable number of people. If you need that connection or want that connection, reach out to me, reach out to Trish. I've got 10,000 LinkedIn connections. I've worked with a bunch of companies and have placed hundreds of people. There's a probability I can find you somebody that'll answer that question. Trish, do we have another question?
Yes, we do. So what suggestions do you have for someone who may not have taken advantage of internships during their undergraduate degree and still had work experience during, for example, summers or growing up, but didn't exactly have the science or animal science related internships?
And what do they want to know?
Suggestions or any tips that you might have for someone who, like, maybe a student from a different country that is in the US, for example, but you know, certain companies like Tyson's or one of the other big integrators, they would have internships on offer, right, before they finish. If this student, for example, didn't take advantage of that, like what would you suggest, or how can, I guess what they're trying to ask here is how can they be stronger resume wise so that companies would hire them or take note of them or interview them? How can they strengthen that so that they can cross over to the industry?
I found that if you're, I can tell you that practical experience with the animals in live production is worth a lot of money. Here you go. I know of 2 fresh grads that came out of 2 different state universities with PhD programs in dairy nutrition that turned down offers at $150,000 a piece and took jobs similar, you know, probably 130 is where they landed. And they were getting multiple offers like this. I know of one that had 10 offers, and I know it's legit because I had 2 of them for her, that was able to command top dollar coming out of school because they'd grown up on a progressive, larger dairy and had fabulous hands-on experience. Comparing that with somebody who graduated with the same degree from a school not that far away, her offer was $85,000 with the same type of company, and she had 1 offer. So with that in mind, if I didn't have the internships and didn't have a background of growing up on a production facility in the US, I'd come out of school and go to work in live production for a year or 2. Wherever it is, if it's on a dairy farm, make sure it's on a damn big one. If it's beef, make sure it's a feedlot and a good one. If it's in poultry, I go to work for one of the top processors that has a great track record. And if it's in the swine business, I'd pick one of the top 10. Go live where it is, go work in live production, take whatever they've got, figure out what really goes on the farms, and then figure out where to go from there. I've counseled many people that are coming out of school that want to work in dairy nutrition that have never spent more than a couple hours on a dairy farm. I said, go milk cows for 6 months. It's going to be worth $10,000 more to start, and over time it'll be worth a whole lot more. And the knowledge that you pick up and the experience that you have and the appreciation that you will get for the producer will be worth all that time. Next question, Trish.
I think, Trish, can you hear me now? This is Casey.
Welcome back, Casey.
Yeah. I think there's a good question from Gustav up on the list, on the questions of how do I get people to be attracted to my resume if I don't have a network or referral. I'm going to let Dan touch on that a little bit, but I think the more I understand this, I can, for fresh grads, I know how hard it is to get the attention of the right people. And that's partly why I wanted to start Coffee and Careers, because if they don't know you, they're going to probably bypass you unless you have a resume, maybe similar to mine, that has 10 years plus experience. And so that's where Dan's group comes in and really helps you get in the door. But I think the points of having production experience, that type of experience, is also very important to get that resume looked at.
Okay, if you want to grab people's attention, the easiest way to do it is to have the biggest available network of people that can know you. Okay, you want to cast a really wide net. So to do that, I would follow this slide. If you want thousands more people to be able to see you, or you see them or reach out to them, link to me. Okay. Another thing that I would do is work on your accomplishments. List them, highlight them, whatever achievements they are. Maybe you were the #2 speaker or had the #2 poster for Midwest Animal Science. Highlight your practical experience, your internships. If you studied under a name brand professor, and these professors know who they are, and they will tell you that they are name brand professors. If you studied under one of them, make sure the top of your resume has master's degree, my thesis is this, and my advisor was Dr. blah, 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 blah. And everybody in that space that you want to go in knows Dr. So-and-so and so. Okay? Join the right groups on LinkedIn. Become a member of the scientific association that is in your field. ADSA, Poultry Science, whatever it is. They've got rates for grad students that are quite affordable. Network through there. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. Send a note to him, to the people that do what you want to do. Ask them, how do I break in? Everybody who is where you want to be was at one time where you are. Ask them how they got there. But the most important part of this is, I didn't talk about it in this session, but the most important question you can ask yourself is, what do I really want? Figure out what it is you want to do. What functions do you wish to perform during the week so that you will earn the paycheck that you want at the end of the week and be involved with the people, the size, the animals at the level you wish to be. Figure that out. And are you willing to live where you need to live to do that? Do the type of work and put in the effort to do it? And have you studied the right things to do it? If not, then go study it. Figure out what it is you want. Suck it up. The people that are where you want to be were once where you are. Ask them how they got there. And you can find them easier by linking to me or other people that have lots of connections. I hope that helps.
Dan, do you have any advice, for example, for somebody that's coming straight out of university or, finishing up their masters or trying to break into any industry, doesn't matter which species it is, but how can they write their resume, or what kind of mindset do they need to be in so that, for example, a company would consider them for an interview?
Well, it depends on what you have to offer. If you have, if you grew up on a farm and you want to work in the area of the animal that you were in, I'm here on Delmarva. You can't swing a cat without hitting a poultry barn. So let's use that for an example. If you grew up and your parents were contract growers for Purdue and you want a career in the poultry sciences, I would start off at the top of my resume where it says objective, to apply my practical experience in poultry production along with my education of blah, da, 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 to gain a position of X, Y, and Z. So what you're showing me is, this is what I got. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Other things you do, highlight any internships you've had. Highlight any shadowing you have. Highlight the professor if you're with a marquee professor. Make sure and list your thesis on your resume, particularly if it's in line with what you have. List accomplishments. And I don't care if one of your accomplishments is that I was a dairy princess. I'll tell you what, any resume I get that says dairy princess on it gets an interview with me, period. And to be really clear about that, they get an interview with me. They don't get handed off to my staff. If you're an Eagle Scout, that's an accomplishment. If you won this award, show that you're a winner. Companies like to hire successful people. And make sure you're clear about what you want and how what you've done has set you up for that. If you write a cover letter, remember this rule about anything. Whenever writing, it's very simple, write this down. So what? Who cares? What does it mean to me? You have to have the third point. I've studied this, I've done that, and this is how it can help you. Those are the tips I have. Network through LinkedIn, network through the associations, push your professors for their connections. Beat them up. The university sold you an education. working for a career. Next.
We have a question from Caitlin Zemer. She teaches undergraduate animal sciences career classes. She is asking, what is your opinion on objective statements and skills on resumes?
If you have a clear objective, the clearer that objective is, the more enticing it's going to be if it's a match. If I see a resume that says, I want to apply my experience of growing up on a dairy farm with my master's in dairy nutrition for a role as a nutritional consultant, and I've got an opening for someone going direct to farm, that's going to get my attention much faster than one who doesn't. Know what you want, tell them what you want, and if it matches up, you'll attract their attention. Skills, only if you have practical skills. Soft skills, yeah. But if you are looking for, I place a lot of nutritionists. So if you're coming out of school with a nutrition background and you can formulate rations, by golly, formulate rations for monogastric animals using Brill or Brill and Dalex. That's a skill. That's a marketable skill. That's something I don't have to teach you. Therefore, that's going to put you at the top of the stack. Yes. Practical skills, yes. An objective, absolutely, as long as you know what it is. And now think about this. You may need to tailor that for particular jobs. If you have an interest in doing A and B, then make sure your objective is for A and B, and that you send A out to companies that have A jobs and the other vice versa. Tailor it as much as you want.
Now, Dan, I'm not sure you're aware of this, but does your company or other companies help students with their resumes, or you like a resume coach and help change that and develop that, or is that a service you offer? Or
most universities will do that for you. They have a career office that will help get you started. If I can do it in 10 minutes or less, and after having read a couple 100,000 resumes, I'm pretty quick, I'll take a look at your resume and give you a once over. Link to me, send it to me through that. It'll be a day or so, but yeah, I'll take a look at it. But go to the career office and have a good start at it. And yeah, I'll help you with that. Now, Casey, once this thing gets up to about 1,000 people, I'm not going to offer that.
okay.
Trish, do we have any other good questions?
We've got one last one. For international dairy, how do we find roles in the dairy industry where we can travel abroad but be home based in the US?
And Jim said Dan. Jim Smith said contact Dan.
No, don't contact Dan, because Dan doesn't have that. Hell no. Okay. Do you know who that is, Trish?
Who is? Dan?
Who is?
Dan's you.
Yeah, yeah, I've been me for a long time. Who asked the question?
We have a question from Dana Bryant.
Okay, can Dana Bryant unmute herself, Casey?
You should be able to. Everybody has permission. Yep.
All right, Dana, go ahead. You and I are going to talk for a second, okay? Tell me you're there.
Yes, I am.
Okay. You want to work international dairy. What's your educational background?
Oh, I'm currently working on my master's.
Okay. How far are you going to take it?
I think my master's.
What do you want to do internationally?
I don't know much what's offered in that. The only one I've seen is like consulting, so that's what I was kind of leaning towards.
You've got 2 roles here, and if you're going to really do it, you've got to get the doctorate degree.
Okay.
Okay. You can work for a major corporation, a major international corporation, and get into technical support. Alltech, and I'm not necessarily a fan of Alltech, so I'm not going to promote Alltech here. But this I will give Alltech, that they do that for their people. They give them international opportunities. But you're going to want a doctorate degree if you're going to try and work internationally.
Okay.
But
Thank
it's either technical support or go start feeding 20,000 cows here on 3, 4, 5 big progressive farms. Your name will get around. You can pick up other things.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
There was a follow-up to that. A lot of questions on master's level dairy, and let's just say, let's paint a broad spectrum, not just dairy, any species, to be able to travel internationally. To get the tech support roles that Dan was talking about, a PhD is necessary, especially if you go internationally from the US perspective. It's not needed, but the best role potentially for you to get into a company with a master's level degree is sales. And you grow up to be sales manager, you grow up to be, a regional manager and global roles. You'll get to travel internationally. So you need to pick those international companies that I've worked for in my career and had that opportunity. We're going to have people coming up talking about some of that. My good classmate back at the University of Arkansas, Mark DeBeer, he's a great example of someone. He's not from the U.S. He came to the U.S. and went to school, and he stayed here. But he took, the same degree as I did and was vice president at, I think, both DSM and Elanco, and now is president at Aviagen. So, you can see how he's kind of worked up in his career. But we got to remember, you can't start with the top job. You got to get in and build up from there. So, you have to start somewhere, and being that top person, he had to start somewhere to get there. And so just kind of remember that. Any comments from you, Dan, on that?
Yeah, I'm going to augment that. She said, if you're going to do that, you need a PhD. That is almost right. You either need to have a PhD or a DVM. Either one of those will work to get that international travel. If you've got a master's degree in X and that's the way you want to go, and you can't find the right PhD program, you can get into vet school, go do it. That degree will do the same thing. In fact, veterinarians in some cases have halos over their head. People will listen to them when they won't listen to anybody else. I'm not promoting it, but it is an option if you can't find the right PhD program. Are there any other questions?
We've got a really good one. So there's a good question here from Jim Smith. Dan, can you comment on being prudent with sharing your resume with recruiters?
Yes, would love to. Okay. My firm is a nationally accredited firm through the National Association of Personnel Services, and we adhere to their ethics. And on top of that, you'll find that there are 2 different types of firms out there. One is a search firm that's looking to fill a position and will have integrity. Your resume is your personal data. With a good firm, and I'm sorry for the damn phone, hold on. Your resume is your personal information. It needs to be treated as personal and confidential, and your ownership of it. Control that. Do not let the recruiter have your information and send it anywhere else and wallpaper the industry. Okay, that's the term we use. There are people out there that will wallpaper the industry. They'll get your resume. They'll send it out to 40 different companies, throw it like spaghetti at a wall and hope something sticks. That person does not have the ethics or the skills to do this job right, in my humble opinion. Work with a recruiter, tell them you want to know where the resume is going, and it doesn't leave the recruiter's office without your specific permission. Every time we send a resume out, we ask this question: do I have your permission to send your resume along with our notes to company X? You want to make sure you have that control. And if they're not going to give you that and agree to that, or they start blah, 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 give you, there's a button on your phone that will hang up. Use it. Did that answer the question? The person that asked it, did that give you what you wanted?
Jim said yes in the chat. Yep.
Okay. Is there
We
anything
got
else?
one
we'd
more.
like- Okay.
What kind of industry jobs can you get your foot in the door when you have a PhD, particularly in animal welfare? I'm
Well,
sorry, industry?
Mm-hmm.
I
There-
go to work with and I'm going to flip this to Casey. Off the top of my head, I would go to work for the integrators, the large integrators. I would look to them. The Tysons, the Pilgrims, the Smithfields, the Christensen Farms. I would look at those because they have to watch that. Otherwise, I don't see an option in industry. Casey?
Well, and Casey Owens said, I think she agreed with you on that statement in the chat. And I would say these companies are adding animal welfare positions to their payrolls. I'm not sure if it's a master's or PhD level animal welfare, but definitely, you know, industry. He touched on industry, but not for profits are also looking for those skills. But it is a growing demand for jobs out there. There's also auditing companies. If you like to travel and you want to be on different farms, you know, 5 different days in a different state, different farms, there's auditing companies that are looking for animal welfare specialists. But it is a growing demand job. You just don't maybe see it as advertised as much, but it's definitely a need and it's growing in the integrated market here. And, you know, I think Casey said Paco, which I think is correct on the poultry side of things, but it's growing. And I'd also look at, you know, meat packing plants. I know they do have animal welfare specialists, I think, as well, that work with those. I've met some different people who have worked for Packers as their animal welfare director and things like that. So there are roles out there. It's just maybe not as advertised as well as nutritional roles would be, but it's a growing need. And maybe working with a recruiter or something, or some key networks to find those roles is maybe something that you need to do.
The person I would reach out to would be the vice president of live production. If he's not the person, he or she is not the person that fills that position, they will know if their company has a need for it and will be able to direct you. VP of live production.
Yes, correct. So we have a few more minutes. If we have last minute questions, Trish?
I was just going to add Dan to that too. If you do send something like the VP of Life Production in the title, right, what it's about, right? Don't make them do an Easter egg hunt for what the purpose is. If you want them to forward it, make it clear in the subject line if you want a response. So.
Yes, absolutely.
And one thing I'd just really like to add, you guys, since I know there's a lot of fresh grads that are joining us today, is guys, don't sell yourselves short. Just because you don't, you know, and I know you guys hear this a lot when they say, oh, we need a nutritionist. They they're looking for a PhD, or they're okay with an MS in animal sciences or poultry nutrition or monogastric nutrition. Don't underestimate the research that you guys do with your professors. Maybe the patent isn't under your name, but you helped with that project. You could list that down in your resume. Another thing is entertain those tech support roles that are out there. As Dan said, of course, the integrators would be, you know, the easiest thing to go, but there are companies out there that would hire that would hire an MS or a fresh PhD to do the tech support roles that they need. Sometimes it even translates half research, half tech support. For those who are studying in the US and, for example, you speak Chinese, that's actually a skill, or Korean, or, you know, other languages. That's a big skill.
Spanish, Portuguese.
Yeah, so don't leave that out of your resume, and don't sell yourself short. There are a lot of people out there who will try to lowball you because you don't, quote unquote, have the experience. So you've also got to know how to sell yourself. So back to what Dan said earlier, wherein what do you really want to be doing? You can always counter what they have to offer by making sure that you can cover the basic requirements of what they're asking for in any job. So don't lowball yourselves, especially for those that aren't US citizens and want to work in the US, because sometimes that really makes it harder to take the next leap. If, for example, you're going to take on another role, or you're trying to move up in your career with that company, don't let the monetary aspect fool you into taking something that you know you're worth more, if that makes sense.
Well, with that, I'd like to thank everyone for being on the call. I'm really excited about the next one. We're going to be visiting with a couple veterinarians and talking about their role and why they chose it. I know, you know, maybe not a lot of us are veterinarians think mindset here, but I think the two veterinarians I picked will give us some great insights into their careers and how we work with veterinarians, because if there's a lot of nutritionists out there, there's this stigma that veterinarians and nutritionists don't get along. So I think it's going to be entertaining. I think we've had some great discussions, and I think this series is filling a need, obviously, by your support, by joining us today. And I appreciate the professionals on the call as well. I think the more professionals we have involved and that can mentor the younger generation coming up, I think is absolutely critical. So thank you for participating. And I hope you can keep coming back for the rest of the webinars. I do apologize for the technical difficulty, but hopefully we can improve that in the future. So thank you again, and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Dan.